All right, hi friends. So super stoked on this series that we're doing. Also, Early Bird Gets the Worm. Glad you guys are on this call with us because there's room for 1,000, and we're 2 minutes past the start and we're maxed. So I kind of just brain dump. I am not an organized person. I had someone come into my house today. And in her, it's an interior designer, and in her bio, it said like, not interested in MLM. And so she came to my house and I was like, I saw that you're like anti-MLM, cool. I do work with Beachbody, but I'm kind of like the most not Beachbody coach. And what I mean by that is Beachbody, I love. It has created a ton of freedom for me. It has made me who I am today. I think it's the biggest blessing of our business that the number one job that we have is to work on ourselves first if we're ever going to help anybody out. And so I love that, but I also feel like I am so much more than just a Beachbody coach, right? Like that's just a part of my brand. And I actually feel like it's kind of one of the smaller parts. People don't know a lot of times based on my social media that I work for Beachbody. Like none of us work for Beachbody, that I work with Beachbody because I am the kind of person, I made this decision way long ago. So my name's Ashlie Molstad. We'll start there. I'm Ashlie Molstad, and I found Beachbody just to get in shape for my wedding. No desire at all to ever work the business. When I found Beachbody, I had no belief in myself at all. I was always someone who like dreamed really big, and I think I made my husband dizzy for the amount of times I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. No, this is what I'm gonna do, right? Like every day or every week I had a new exciting thing that I wanted to try out, and I thought that would be the thing that would make me happy because I struggled like all of my life with insecurity, and then that went into depression. And that's kind of where and when I found Beachbody was when I was at my lowest. So the person that you see right now speaking to you, who has no notes for this call, who had a drink and almost had another and then thought I just did the ultimate reset, and so these are hitting kind of hard. So I decided let's just, be coherent for this. But I'm not. I'm a very different person today than I was when I found Beachbody. And I went like back into my YouTube channel to look at some of my very first videos, and I couldn't even watch them. I'm like, this is so boring. Like I had no energy. I was so nervous to be on camera. So the point is, who you are today isn't who you're meant to be. And that is one thing that I think Beachbody does beautifully. Just helps us step into who we're meant to be. But you don't get to be who you're meant to be in this life without working through the struggles. And we've all got our own, we come to this wounded. We have, all of us, every single person, even if you have the most blessed life, like I can't remember if Moira is a part of this crew or not, but I remember hearing Moira say, I'm already hot, this passion flows. Remember hearing Moira say on the Top 10 trip that one of the things that like screwed her up or whatever was her dad bragging about how good of a soccer player she was or something like that. Like, oh, she's so good. Something like that. Like it was a compliment that her dad gave her in front of her friends, but it made her feel like she had to be a certain way or perform at a certain level, right? And that's coming from a compliment. Okay, so we're all coming into this with these like things that we believe about ourselves. Let me just hold on. I'm going to exit all my Facebook pages because things are going off. But we come into this with all these beliefs about ourselves. And my belief about myself was that I sucked and I couldn't inspire anybody. That I had no idea anything about social media. I didn't ever comment even on social media. Hardly ever posted because I was just so terrified of what everyone thought of me. And it is wild to say that now because the thing that I hear probably more than anything else is I love how real you are. But I was not always like this. I was very calculated when I started, in that I only showed the world what I thought the world wanted to see from me. And turns out, what the world wants to see from you is who you really are. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I find myself, I always tell this story of, I think it was before I even found Beachbody, there's this girl named Ashlie. She actually spells her name the same as me, Ashlie. But she had dreadlocks. She didn't shave her armpits. We met her at a bar in Eugene, Oregon. She wore literally rose-colored glasses, no makeup, talked about how much sex all the time. Just freaking free, just a free spirit. And I didn't have really anything in common with her, but I wanted to be around her because she owned who she was. She just was like, this is me, take it or leave it. And certainly there were people that were like, I'm gonna go ahead and leave it, I'm not interested. But there were also then people who were like, I am attracted to that kind of energy. I didn't want to be like her in her life. I'm gonna continue shaving my armpits. I'm never really had a one night stand, right? I'm not interested in the lifestyle. I am interested in how she just owned who she was and said, judge me if you want, but I'm still gonna live for me. And I hadn't lived a day in my life. Well, probably when I was a kid, but I hadn't lived since middle school probably for me. I was always performing, and people didn't like me. There were people that didn't like me when I put out what I thought people wanted to see. And there are people that don't like you now. Maybe you're like Ashlie when she joined, where you know, your favorite color is based on what you think should be. This is such a silly thing, but I am obsessed with pink, and I did not want anyone to know that until like I found Beachbody. And that's such a small thing, but literally everything, I was so afraid of being judged. I thought if pink was my favorite color, that I would be too girly. And I didn't want to be girly. Being a girly girl was a bad thing, right? I'm just saying this to explain how insecure I was at every level. Because I don't want you to look at me now and think, oh, well, of course she's top coach, or of course she's superstar, because look at her. Right? Look, like she's confident, she's got this, she's that. And I did all those same things too. When I started and nobody knew my name, and I had no followers and no coaches on my team and no customers. And, you know, I was a coach, not emerald even, not right? Like we all start at the same place. Lindsay Natway, the highest income earner in Beachbody, started with nobody knowing her name. Everybody were teamed up with 19, I think, 19 superstar leaders. Every one of us started nobody knowing our name. No team, right? So whatever insecurities you have about yourself, that's fine, that's valid, that's all a part of what makes you you. But don't for a second think that because of what you're coming into this business with, that you cannot be successful. For every excuse that you are telling yourself and why you cannot be successful, there is a successful top coach out there. You will hear from 19 of them who could have used that same exact excuse and just chose not to. So I really need you to lean in hard on building belief in yourself. And because what this series essentially is about is helping you build belief so that you get through the hard times. Because what you see, you know, the name and lights and the recognition and the trips and all the fun things, the things that make entrepreneurship really sexy and awesome, those are cool. But those are like 10% of the business. 90% of the business is you at home, working by yourself behind the scenes with all the thoughts running through your brain. What are they going to think of me when I don't want to seem salesy? I'm afraid if I put this up, oh my gosh, what's my mother-in-law going to say? What are the people at my church going to think if I share this, right? Danielle Natoni is one of my best friends, and I used to be so afraid of posting how I like to drink because she just was, and this was even like, she did drink sometimes. I didn't know it on social media, but I was afraid of what she would think. Like, she doesn't care. She's one of my best friends. She's actually like one of the most non-judgmental people I know. But you cannot hold yourself back from putting things out there because of thinking of that one person. And the way that I did this initially was Brene Brown, The Power of Vulnerability. I listened to that audio series. I always have to double check that that's what it's called. But it's an audio series, so you have to listen to it. It's not a book. And in there, The Power of Vulnerability. And in there, she talks about how we all have things that we're embarrassed of. We all have things that we carry shame over. We all have things that we don't want anybody to know, even our spouses, right? We keep stuff locked away in the closet. And we think that those things, if anyone were to find out those things about us, right, that they would go running. And she's talking to this audience in this, and she says, raise your hand, show of hands, how many of you feel like when someone shares something that they're really vulnerable about, think that that's brave? And, like everybody's hand goes up. And then she's like, now how many of you, when you share something that you're vulnerable about, see it as a sign of weakness or there's fear? And everyone's hand goes up. And she's like, why is it when other people do it, we're proud of them, but when we do it, we're ashamed? And then I decided the first thing that I had to do, the thing that my biggest shame gremlin at the time, I've since shared several, but this is how I started owning who I am. And it was throwing out there, buried in a caption, somewhere deep, because I didn't really want people to know, but I knew I had to put this personal development into action, was when I first shared about my history with depression. Or not my history with it, I was in it. I was still actively struggling with it when I shared about it. I didn't share that I was suicidal because I was too embarrassed of that. But what happened when I put that caption out there was, instead of sending people running, I don't even know if there was like high engagement on the post, because there was a lot of other people who could relate to it who carried shame as well. But it brought a bunch of people to my DMs and built connections. And so that thing that I was so embarrassed of that I didn't want anybody to know was the thing that started connecting me with people. And that gave me power. And I realized by me talking about it, it not only helped me because people were saying thank you, and also me too. So it made me feel like I wasn't alone. But it helped other people too. And so then I started just doing it, a little bit more and a little bit more. And then, over the course of time, I realized there's nothing that I could put out there, nothing that I'm so ashamed over that I could put out there that wouldn't be met with a chorus of people saying, me too. Now, not everyone that follows me struggles with depression. Not everyone that follows, if your thing is bankruptcy or, financial ruin or maybe abuse or a terrible relationship or an eating disorder, whatever the thing is that you're ashamed over, there's just nothing that really you could share that no one else has gone through. And so some of the people that are following you might not resonate with that, and that's cool, because I also think that it is powerful for people to unfollow you. And I remember it would like sting as I was growing in this business when I would post something and I would get unfollows, because in the beginning you're so desperate for like, I feel like I need more followers. And so it sucked when people would leave. And I've learned since that that's a very good thing. If you can clear out some of the people who follow you, then it makes room for you to get deep, like build a deeper, your engagement could go up. Even if the followers go down, your engagement could go up, and likely will go up. And that's what you want. You don't want followers. It doesn't matter how many followers you have. It matters how many fans you have or how many followers you have who care. So I encourage you to start small if you need to, but start sharing who you are and owning who you are. And bit by bit, you'll get more comfortable because you'll realize that people actually like the real you. Still to this day, if you guys watch Summit and the top coach thing, and I just sobbed my way through the whole thing because still, coming from a history of, you know, insecurity and depression, not thinking I was good enough, when people say nice things about me on like a deep level, still part of me can't believe that. I've gone viral. The first time I went viral, and the viral thing was like whatever it was, but what made me cry was people saying, of all people, Ashlie, you deserve this. You deserve this recognition. And that just made me bawl every time because I didn't, like, I don't know, I just still feel like for people to love me that much still seems crazy, you know? And so I think the biggest piece for me, that's why I don't ever really train on like, here's how to invite people, here's how your conversation should go. I think we overthink everything. I don't think half of that stuff matters. I think if your heart is in the right place and you can stay rooted in the right mindset of I am here to become my best self and help other people do the same, if you can stay rooted in that and know that you are not for everybody and you will piss some people off and you'll turn some people off, but it's going to bring you closer to yourself and also bring other people closer to you. If you can do that, like, you don't have to sell this business. You don't have to sell our products. They will sell themselves because people want to be a part of that. They want to be close to somebody who's owning who they are. You're going to hear from 19 of us over the rest of this year. And every one of us has a different story, and every one of us runs our business differently. And there is a way to be successful, however it feels good to you. But coaching won't always feel good, right? The way that this thing got started was in the Superstar thread. Christina Delgado, I think it was, said, remember that time we all did calls on the time we almost quit but didn't? That was powerful. And so Bonnie was like, hey, would you want to do this again? Like, let's put something together for our teams. And so I'm going to share with you a story about when I almost quit or wanted to quit. And this is just one of many because there were lots of times as I was building this business that I doubted myself or I doubted the ability to really build this long term. And I just want to make it clear that it took me 5 years of showing up every single day, of hitting Success Club every single day. Not every single day, hitting Success Club every single month, of starting conversations with people every day, of doing the behind the scenes stuff that sucks. It took me 5 years of, I think I've got a runner, oh, she quit. I think I've got a runner, she needs to take time off, you know, she needs to reset, whatever. Like, it took so many times. And by the way, Emily Favre was probably the 3rd or 4th coach I ever signed. So Emily was on the team back then. She just wasn't a runner. She'd get to Success Club 5 and then just chill and like watch Ellen all day. I'm not talking shit. You can ask her. It's true. But she was always there. She just didn't become the rock star that you now know until she was ready to. But it took me 5 years to really feel like I've made it. I've got a tribe now of runners with me. But in year 5, we made 7 figures. Now I was making, you know, I was successful, right? Like I was I had left my job, brought my husband home. I was an elite coach. I was making 6 figures. So I was doing, like on paper, it looked successful, but you know, the comparison thing. So I felt like I wasn't successful enough. And it also felt like I was still always scrambling. Like it just still felt really hard, you know, and it doesn't feel hard anymore. I still have goals and I'm still working hard, but it doesn't feel hard anymore because now I've got a huge team of believers. But this is the long game. It is a long game. There are people that come into this business and they crush it out the gate and then they burn out or they fizzle out or they piss off their families because all they're doing is having your nose in the phone the whole time. It is you're playing the long game here. if you want to be successful. So 5 years from now, if you're a millionaire, all of this would be worth it. And I'm not saying that of course this is recorded. So, Team Beachbody does not guarantee any level of success. Each coach's income is dependent on their own efforts, diligence, and skill. And you can find the statement of the coach earnings somewhere. But I just wanted to preface that by saying it might suck for 5 years. Now, there will be highlights. You'll get to go on trips and you'll meet a bunch of friends and you'll start, you'll have fun and you'll change lives and it'll be amazing. But it also might be really hard. And that's okay. Don't forget to, relish in the highs and hold on in the valleys, but a valley of mine. So I'm working at Nike full time, at Nike corporate. And this is back in 2013 or so when I started. And what my routine was is I would, wake up, work out, make a post on my way to work. I could walk to work. And then do my corporate stuff. And at lunchtime, make another post. We didn't have stories back then. And then after work, I would sometimes schedule calls with people, or I would just get home and we'd have dinner. I'd work my business and sit there while we watch TV, right? And so one day I came home after work and I had 2 calls scheduled. And so I'm working all day, come home, and I had to, people wanted to know about, they were either getting started right or tell me about this coaching thing. So I had 2 of those back to back. And I remember after the first one, I'm like, oh, this is just exhausting. I'm exhausted. I'm working all day. I've been doing this for a year. I feel like I'm having these phone calls all the time. And I don't know if this is ever going to go anywhere. What if I just quit? Nike was always my goal. I always wanted to work at Nike, Nike headquarters. That was my dream job. That was my pie in the sky. And so I thought, I could just go back, to climbing the corporate ladder. No one would really notice. But the problem was, and I thought in that same, the next thought was okay, so if I do that, I give up on Beachbody and just go back to that secure paycheck. What else am I giving up on? Because at this point, remember I told you I was always a big dreamer. So I had big plans for John and I's future. I wanted to bring him home. I wanted to buy a house in Central Oregon. We had, our dog. So I wanted to wake up with no alarm clock and bike ride and just do whatever, live life how I wanted to. And so if I gave up on Beachbody, I was also giving up on our future, on all of our plans. Because dreaming at Nike, it was dreaming as big as I could dream there was I'm going to climb the ladder until I make 6 figures. And once I make 6 figures, $100,000 was my pie in the sky back then. And not that that's not a lot of money. That's a lot of money, but it's just that why was I dreaming that low, that small, right? So that was my pie in the sky. And I would climb the corporate ladder and bring John home, and he'd be the stay-at-home dad if we had kids, and I would work because I like to work. So that was our big plan. And then I would just work on someone else's agenda and someone else's schedule. And they would tell me every year at my review if I got a raise or not. And they would tell me if I could take that time off. And they would tell me that I had to be in this chair working these hours, right? I had to do all these things for everybody else on their plans. It doesn't sound so good. So head down, take that next phone call, do my invites that night, one foot in front of the other. That's not the last time I thought about quitting Beachbody. It wasn't the first, because this business can feel overwhelming. I want you to stay rooted in what we're doing, because if I was just it was when I got focused on my goals and them not happening on my timeline that's when I started to see, have the wind sucked out of my sails. Versus the day-to-day, I am becoming my best self, and I am helping other people do the same, and then I'm getting paid for it. That's all bomb. That is amazing, right? So it was just that I wasn't seeing success as fast as I wanted. I wasn't getting as many runners as I wanted. but I was still making a difference. I was still having fun. I still was totally in love with Beachbody. So why would I give up on this dream? Because I also I'm going to end with this. So worst case scenario, you think worst case scenario, and I want to talk about this quitting thing, because there's 1,000 people on this call. I don't know how many more people will watch this, and guaranteed a large portion of you will at some point quit Beachbody. You will decide this is too hard and it's not for you. Thinking this is hard does not make you unique. Every coach has thought this is hard. Every single one has struggled in this business. What makes you unique and what's going to make you successful is continuing to put that one foot in front of the other. That's what's going to make you stand apart, right? And of course, you got to do the work in the meantime. Like, you can't just hope for big things. Like, you got to put in the work. But worst case scenario, you think, all right, I'm going to go back to my job. I'm going to, like, for me, I'll explain my worst case scenario. So my worst case scenario would be I quit Beachbody and I just go back to Nike, and, you know, I'm out the time that I spent for this last year building this business, and I'm out, you know, maybe a little bit of money. I've invested some into this, and then I just climb the corporate ladder, I guess, right? That's worst case scenario. So sure, you could quit, but except for that's not worst case scenario. Worst case scenario would have been I quit Beachbody back then. I go back to Nike, climbing the corporate ladder, and I miss out on this life that was waiting for me. This life that allowed us to retire myself or fire my boss, bring my husband home, be full-time stay-at-home parents with our kids now, to also get to employ other people. We have a nanny, and I know she relies on us at this point. We just bought $1 million home, and this will be the home that we think we'll be in for the next 15 years till the kids grow up. We're planning on buying multiple rental properties. I have completely changed my life and my mindset. I know that I matter. I know I make a difference, and I've been able to help so many hundreds, if not thousands, of women do the same. Several creating this freedom for themselves and their families, and some just creating freedom in their bodies. Like, that is worst case scenario. Worst case scenario is not that you quit Beachbody and you go back to the life that you were living. Worst case scenario is that you quit Beachbody and you don't get to live the life that was meant for you. Can you guys imagine if your coach decided to quit when it got hard and this business sucked? Like, I don't know. I always talk about Lindsay Notley because she was such a mentor for me when I first started. I think the first year I was a coach was when she was top coach. And I just think, what if she would have leaned into the fear voice or like quit? Because she showed me, I have an upline that recruited me that does not work the business, and she showed me that it's still possible, right? I just feel like, what if she would have quit and then she's missing out on this life that she gets to live right now and has then paved the way for so many of us? Like, think about what your worst case scenario would be. What are the dreams that you're dreaming with Beachbody? I want you to get real clear on them, because that is, honestly, when I sat there, I can picture myself when I thought of this time that I just told you about. You know, I can picture, like, I'm standing up in our living room right behind the couch. It's black leather sofa. The sun's pouring in. It's like 5:30, right? And I'm frustrated. I'm looking out the window like, is this all there is? This sucks. Worst case scenario, man, is I never would have been me. I would have just gone back to the person who was insecure, felt like she didn't matter, living paycheck to paycheck, broke. John would have, like, I don't even know what his life expectancy would be because his job was soul sucking. Certainly if he stayed at that job, it would have shortened some amount off of his life, because stress is the worst thing. So when I'm there and I want to quit, I could close my eyes and say, nope, because that means that I also don't get that house in Sun River, which we never got the house in Sun River. It ended up not being the big dream after all, but You know, I don't get that. I had a picture. I knew what my countertops looked like. I knew what the carpet looked like. I knew what I had for breakfast. I could taste that dream. So I couldn't give up on that dream. And thank God I didn't, because now I'm living best case scenario. All right, so we're supposed to keep these calls 30 minutes or less. I'm at 32 minutes, so I'm gonna just wrap it up. But that I want you to take away from this, get real clear on what your vision looks like. Like, what if your pie in the sky, as high as you can dream, as big as you can dream, and it still won't be big enough? What does that look like? Because you can always level up your dreams. But what does that look like? And then when you think about quitting, because we are going into Q4, and notoriously, who knows what's going to be happening with COVID, but notoriously it is a little bit tougher. You have to battle a little more intense headwinds in this fourth quarter. So when you think about quitting, or I'm just going to take a break, or I'm just going to rest, or I'm really tired, when, not if, and maybe it's not this fourth quarter, but at some point you will, what is going to keep you working? Because if you continue to show up and you plug into yourself and take the pressure off the sales and the numbers and the accolades and just put it on helping people every single day, one foot in front of the other, I don't know how you would not be successful. I just don't know how. Like, you will be. It's pretty much a guarantee. If you do the work and you stick around long enough and you work like hell on your mind, like, sky's the limit, folks. All right, so do your best to be on these calls every Tuesday going forward, except election week and Christmas week. Speaking of the election, please register to vote if you're in the US. And thanks for hopping on, guys. You're the best.